If you're thinking about opening a bank account in the Emirates, whether personal or corporate that is for a company, this video's for you. My name is Sergey and I am the head of Dynasty Business Adviser. We are based in Dubai, and for over 11 years we've been helping entrepreneurs from all over the world open bank accounts, both for companies and individuals. We also provide accounting services in the United Arab Emirates. During this time we've dealt with hundreds of cases, both successful and not so successful. That's why today I'll tell you honestly how to open a bank account and how things really work here. Why do banks refuse to open bank accounts? Which bank should you choose, and what should you do if your account gets frozen? Let's start with the most common question people ask. Is it possible to open an account in Dubai without a resident visa? In a broad sense, yes, you can open a bank account, but in practice it's highly unlikely, because the entire global banking system, including the Emirates, now requires just one thing: prove your connection to the country. Why do you want to open this bank account? You can't just turn up with your passport now and say, open a bank account for me. That won't work in the Emirates, and it won't work in most developed countries either. You need to show some kind of asset, a company, a visa, or something else. If you own property in the Emirates, if you've somehow already bought it, yes, that can serve as grounds for opening a personal bank account. But again, the bank will ask where you earned that money. They'll ask you to provide proof of the source of your funds. And this is where most clients start to have questions. What should they show? What kind of personal bank statements? They all manage their affairs at home completely above board and transparently, so they could provide the necessary documents that would satisfy the bank in order to open a bank account for you. Also, why don't banks want to open accounts for non-residents, whether personal or company accounts? Because due to the high demands of international regulators, they have to put in a lot of effort to check a potential client. And a lot of effort means a lot of money spent by the bank. And that's why, if the bank sees that the effort spent won't bring sufficient profit to the bank, it may refuse to open a bank account for such a potential client, especially if they are a non-resident. Therefore, for a non-resident account, the bank will ask you for the average balance. If we're talking about proper large banks, then for resident accounts, this starts from 5 million dirhams. Here comes the second problem: the exchange of tax information on non-residents worldwide. The majority of countries, about 180 or so, have signed the ESR for the exchange of tax information on non-residents. And if a non-resident keeps more than 200,000 euros in the bank as of the 31st of December, the bank is obliged to send information about the account balance to the country where the client is a tax resident, which is not always advantageous for everyone. Of course, in some cases, clients opened resident accounts a long time ago. Banks generally try not to close accounts, even if they are non-resident ones. If, for example, someone has some sort of presence, let's say they still have an old flat there, it's still kept and rental payments come in, but it's less than $200,000, yes, they'll provide their tax number, but there is no exchange of tax information because it's less than $200,000. But for new non-resident accounts, we consider this to be disadvantageous. It's always easier to get a residence visa first and then open an account as a resident. So our position is simple and honest. We do not recommend opening accounts for non-residents. It's better to get a residence visa first. It's really not expensive at all. For example, one of our simplest methods is to register a finance license and obtain a residence visa on that basis. The complete package with the visa costs around $4,500, including our services. And you can even become a resident within a week, especially if you're already here. You come to us, a couple of simple steps, and within a week we sort out your residence visa, obtain the finance license, and arrange the residence visa for you. And after you've become a resident, once we receive your Emirates ID, we'll go with you and open your personal account almost on the same day. And you can start transferring your funds into your personal account without any restrictions. Well, the only restriction, of course, is the basis for the transfer. That is, the sources must be affiliated. These are either personal accounts or companies that are affiliated with you. You transfer the money and that's it. And after that, no one asks any questions. The second very important topic is why a bank might refuse to open an account. Well, this follows from what I've already said. Let's go through these reasons. The first and most common reason why a bank refuses to open accounts is the lack of a clear history of the origin of funds. The bank always wants to see a transparent history of where a person's funds have come from. If, for example, someone says, "I worked for a company called Alpha LLC," fair enough. The bank will ask, "Did you really? Show us a salary certificate from the company, your bank statement for the last 3 or 6 months showing payments from that company." If you can't provide that, it could be grounds for refusing to open a bank account. The second reason, if, for example, we're talking about opening a company account, it's the mismatch between the declared and actual activities of the person. Let's say someone has spent their whole life in the car trading business, but in the Emirates suddenly wants to trade not even cars, but pipes for the oil and gas industry. The bank will say that your activities don't match what you've previously been doing. Your CV does not match your declared activity. And if this company is in a free zone or is an offshore company, then in such a case the bank will refuse. If you want to start a business from scratch, then for example a free zone company is not suitable for you. You need to open a local company because such companies have more of a physical presence, and the bank considers that this could be a new business and the person wants to develop. The third reason is the absence of statements or bank statements from sanctioned jurisdictions or statements from banks that are under sanctions. That is also not allowed. In such cases, the bank refuses to open an account. Secondly, of course, is the passport. There are nationalities from white jurisdictions, there are those from grey ones, and there are some that banks are less willing to open accounts for. For example, if you were a citizen of the European Union, that's considered a very white jurisdiction. An Indian citizen is also considered as such. But if you are, say, from Pakistan, then Emirati banks already have questions. They're now quite biased when it comes to opening bank accounts. Such a person needs to show a clearer history of the origin of their funds and activities, which should be transparent and easily verifiable. It's important to understand that a bank is a business. Every client is a risk. If the risks associated with a client are high and the potential income is low, the bank will always refuse, simply decline to open such a bank account. It's nothing personal, it's just mathematics. Next, we'll talk about which bank you should actually choose. The Emirates is one of the largest banking hubs in the world. In addition to the many local Emirati banks here, all sorts of international banks also open branches, including Citibank, HSBC Bank, Barclays and many others, Indian banks, Pakistani banks and so on. Here are the largest banks by assets. First Abu Dhabi Bank, followed by Emirates NBD, Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank, Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank, and rounding out the top 5 is Dubai Islamic Bank. These are the systemically important banks of the country, with hundreds of billions of dollars in assets. Next, let's talk about the banks that Dynasty Business Adviser specifically works with, offering to open both business and personal accounts. Topping our main list is Emirates NBD. We have strong connections at Emirates NBD for opening personal and company accounts. Next are Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank, First Abu Dhabi Bank, Dubai Islamic Bank, and one of the new players, the Pakistani bank, United Bank Limited. This bank's been around for a long time, but only recently has it started aggressively capturing the market, opening new business and personal accounts. So what are the actual differences between these banks? Well, Emirates NBD is the most powerful, you could say, commercial bank in the Emirates, in my personal opinion. It offers an extensive range of services and has a large number of branches all over the world. The bank employs specialists from all over the globe who speak all European, Asian, Central Asian languages, as well as Russian, Ukrainian, and even Kazakh. Next is Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. This is a smaller bank, it's Islamic, and it's generally easier to open accounts with them, but at the same time, they also ask a lot of questions when processing transactions. Well, it's worth mentioning that all banks always ask questions when processing transactions, so you need to have the supporting documents ready. When making a transaction, it's best to always prepare an invoice, a transport contract if there is one, or if it's a service, then confirmation of the work completed. Whenever you open a bank account, whether it's a personal or company account, the bank will expect there to be some balance in the account. When opening a personal account, if it's a basic account, you literally just need to have 3,000 dirhams there. If it's a standard account without a dedicated manager, if we're talking about a company account and about international business clients, not local ones operating in the Emirates, but international, then the bank will expect to see balances. This ranges from 200 to 500,000 dirhams in the account. It's not a deposit, but it's the average balance that should be maintained for the bank to be interested in servicing such a client. That's why we always recommend being prepared to maintain such a balance. And you also need to show that this balance exists somewhere on another affiliated account of the client before the bank opens this account for you, because the bank needs to see that the client has these funds, either in their company or as personal funds. They need to be ready to bring this money into the bank in order to further develop their business through the Emirates. If you don't have such funds yet, it's not a problem. You can consider a lower risk registration. For example, mainland companies. There, of course, there are more questions regarding taxes, and running a business is less risky. This direction is for local business, or the jurisdiction could be Europe, Asia, yes, places like Singapore, Malaysia, Taiwan or India. In that case, the bank incurs lower costs in servicing such a client and fewer questions arise. You can open a very basic account, right, and sometimes even without a minimum balance for the first year. The bank will simply charge you 200 dirhams for account maintenance, and that's it. And then we move on. The fourth question is, when opening company accounts, is it easier to open an account for a free zone company or for a local company? The so-called mainland, that's a federal license. This question gets asked a lot, and the answer isn't as straightforward as it might seem. Generally speaking, it's easier to open an account for a local company because it's assumed that a local company operates in the local market. The person will have local clients and suppliers, or, for example, foreign suppliers but local clients. And then the client operates in the local currency, and the bank doesn't need to monitor local currency as closely because there's less oversight from many international observers, and they're operating within the Emirates and will pay more taxes here. But that doesn't mean that opening an account for a free zone company is a sentence. Here, of course, you need to look at which free zone you're opening in. For example, if you open in some of the major reputable free zones like DMCC, Dubai Airport Free Zone, or for instance we have Meydan Free Zone, these are high reputation free zones that vet their clients. In that case, the bank needs to check the client less and they open a bank account more easily. Next, there's another nuance that many people don't understand. Even if you have a mainland company, but you declare your business activity as entirely offshore with only foreign counterparties, foreign buyers and foreign sellers, the bank will scrutinize you more closely and, accordingly, will require higher balances and more proof of your business activity. And most importantly, expertise in this activity is crucial. You should always write a competent business plan. You must have a well-prepared CV. Having a company website is also very important. Clean bank statements are necessary, but you can always come to us for help with that. We, Dynasty Business Adviser, will assist you with this. So going through the process without a consultant is always a big mistake. A client may not always notice the little details that need attention. This can lead to being refused when opening a bank account. Accordingly, if a bank has already refused to open a bank account, you can't just go back to the same bank and apply again, can you? You need to wait for a while, and then you should go to a different bank to apply. Our company, Dynasty Business Adviser, can always prepare you for a bank interview, get your documents ready, gather everything in advance, and introduce you to the right manager at the bank. Because every experience when dealing with a bank, yes, the so-called experience, user experience in the bank, depends greatly on the specific manager in a particular bank. Because some bank employees are very responsible, will actively cooperate and help the client when dealing with a bank, while others might not bother, simply forget to send something to the client, forget to ask something, or for example, send documents to the bank's compliance department without even reading them themselves. And this will lead to a refusal. Or even when a person is already working with the bank, it can lead to the closure of their bank account, which is very important. Next comes the question, what should you do if the bank has frozen your account? It's very important to understand that the bank doesn't just freeze all of the bank's transactions. Yes, it doesn't refuse everything. It mainly freezes online banking for external operations. But you can always go to a branch and carry out certain transactions. If you can't do that, it means your account has been completely closed. The freezing of a personal or company account is always connected to a breach in your dealings with a bank based on the KYC you completed. Either you didn't respond to the bank's questions about your transactions in time, or regarding the KYC update, or the renewal of your documents. As I mentioned, the main reason is suspicious transactions that have caught the bank's attention. The bank sent you a letter, but you either didn't reply, or replied with a delay. After a while, this leads to your online banking being frozen, and a bank will expect you to answer all their questions. And only when all the questions have been satisfactorily answered will the account be unfrozen. But it's always important not to panic. You should check your email and see if the bank has contacted you. Very often there are already emails with specific questions or requests for documents. Reply to them and often the issue is resolved. Or if you're having difficulties, get in touch with us. We'll always help you with what to do next. After you've sent the email, it's always best to call the bank and clarify the reason for the block so that they can unblock it. Usually our clients have a manager at the bank who can make the call, or if they ask, we can call on their behalf. So if you're outside the Emirates and can't resolve the issue remotely, most likely you'll have to come in person. Well, after all, the bank is in the Emirates, so you'll need to come here for a while, go to the branch in person, meet with a specific banker and resolve the issue. But you should always keep in mind the practice of such account freezes. Before making any transactions, it's definitely best to consult your compliance officer if you have one. If you don't have one, it's always better to contact us. If you're unsure whether a particular transaction will have certain consequences, it's always better to reach out to us. But even that doesn't always help, because sometimes the bank faces unexpected issues, like some of your counterparties being under sanctions. And now the bank has started blocking even transactions on your account. Still, whenever there's any unusual transaction, before making any atypical movement on your account, whether you're sending or receiving money, it's best to consult with your advisor. If you're our client, then consult with Dynasty Business Adviser, with me personally, or with my partners and colleagues. Let's sum up everything we've discussed. Opening a bank account in the Emirates today is absolutely possible, but it requires preparing the right documents and understanding how the system works in the Emirates and internationally, since the Emirates are part of the global system. They are subject not only to, say, the National Bank of the Emirates, but also to the national banks of other currencies and issuers, such as those using the euro or the US Federal Reserve, that is, the US dollar. Opening an account without residency is difficult. With a resident visa, it's much easier. The reasons for being refused when opening an account are always the same. They can be dealt with in advance. The choice of bank depends on your business activity and your willingness to maintain the required account balance. Both free zone and mainland can work, provided everything is set up correctly. And if your account is frozen, don't panic, there's always a solution. We're always here to help. At Dynasty Business Adviser, we deal with this every day. We help you choose the right bank for your specific situation, prepare the documents, accompany you to interviews, bring you along, assist with bank compliance, answer questions, and also help with operational activities if needed, especially regarding compliance. If you want to sort out your particular situation, drop us a message on WhatsApp. There's also an email and phone number pinned below this video, as well as a link in the description. The first consultation is free of charge. If you found the video helpful, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, get in touch with us and share your thoughts. Let us know what you think. Your opinion really matters. We're now starting to take all this to a serious level. We'll be doing plenty of these podcasts, answering every possible question in video format so we can clear up any uncertainties about working through the Emirates and other jurisdictions.